Hey, welcome to Jeff Needs Sports, everybody, an official Off the Ball Network production. This is the world premiere of knee jerk analysis. And so essentially what this is that we're going to discuss, sorry about that. We are going to discuss this is kind of off the court, off the field situations right here. It's a new thing I'm doing. Kind of like try to touch base with like what everybody's feeling, talking about, bigger picture subjects or whatever, out on this in the sports world. So tonight I've got for my world premiere, I'm so happy to have him, a talented, one of the newer members of the Off the Ball Network, but definitely not undervalued. I got James Barcia at Bars Talks on Twitter. James, thanks for coming on tonight, man. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Jeff. I'm excited, especially after that intro song, man. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. This is going to be real cool, man. So like, that's what I say, like to the listeners, like if you know me, like I love to watch the games. I love to analyze the games. But what I really like to do is talk about things, outside of that, the bigger picture. So like, I won't lie to you. Like I'll go through Twitter and I'll see what everybody's buzzing about, what everybody's arguing about, so to speak. And I'm like, okay, like what's my take on this? So that's kind of what this show is going to be moving forward. And so tonight, man, like what really set me on fire this week, man, was this basically I called it, women versus the NCAA. I don't know how else to say it. So this year, the male and female NCAA basketball tournaments are going to be played in Indianapolis. They're going to, because, everybody knows the situation because of the pandemic. They're going to be played there for like 3 weeks, whatever. And so basically, man, what happens is the women get there. They kind of look around and they're like, okay. And then they see the setup that the men get, and they're like, what the fuck? And so they basically put them on blast on social media, and they're like, okay, here's what the men get, here's what the women get. This is not right, man. So what do you know about this before we get too much into this? Because I know you're in tap with like, the sports world. Like, so what was your initial like your knee jerk? What was your knee jerk on this situation?
My knee jerk was, you said it best. Just what the fuck? Like it was insane. Just at first it was the weight room, and I've seen better weight rooms at a Holiday Inn.
No, I literally. Okay, so James, like you don't know, but like here in Hunt Manor, as Stephen Gillespie likes to call it, our counterpart, dude, I'm 20 feet away from a weight room that triples what the women showed. So if anybody doesn't know, they essentially take a video, and the men's weight room has squat racks and bench press, and benches and free weights and all that. And the women's is literally can be taken in like one picture, and it's a small pyramid rack of dumbbells, not even dumbbells. Like they maybe go up to what, 25, maybe, right? And a stack of yoga mats on a temporary,
the dirtiest looking stack.
Yeah, right.
Yoga mats.
So that's what we're talking about here. If anybody doesn't know, so I don't know where you're at with this, but I'll get some of your thoughts. Like, what was your initial reaction, your knee jerk reaction when you saw that?
At first, I just couldn't believe it. Like the weight room, it was like I said, I've seen better at sketchy motels, and it was I actually seen a video where they finally upgraded the women's weight room, and they're showing a video of, all right, this is everything we've added, and you still look at it, it's nothing compared to the men's one. Still, it's maybe a third of the equipment the men's got, and on top of that, you're adding the swag bags that these athletes get.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about that. Yeah, go ahead. Describe that.
Yeah, it was the men's were getting everything. Any sponsor that hit up the tournament, they got it. They got shampoo, deodorant, book bags, North Faces, you name it. The women, they were lucky to get a drawstring little, like a knapsack welcome bag or something. And to make things worse was the spread of food they had. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's talk about
the women's had like a hungry man.
It was a TV dinner. It was a TV dinner, right?
It was literally and they said it was Salisbury steak. I've had Salisbury steak like 10 years ago. It does not look like that. It was, I don't know what they were eating.
I think they were having the same Salisbury steak. So basically, what the point is here, like how tone deaf could the we talked about this a million times, like the whole NCAA fraud thing. And, the initial defense was, well, yeah, but the women only bring in like, the men bring in like whatever the number was. We'll say it was like 800 million. The women bring in doesn't matter. Like we talked about earlier, our comrade, Stephen Gillespie brought it up. It's like, yeah, but they don't pay them. It doesn't matter what CBS, it does not matter what CBS, TBS, whatever conglomerate that is, ESPN, doesn't matter what they make off of it. This is supposed to be even. Like they're supposed to spread this out even. Like, okay. And so the other side of it is, okay, so if the men make $800 million on this, like really they can't spend $1 million to put in, like, to make it even. Like, so like you have to be totally tone deaf, like to think that this is like, okay, that nobody's going to speak up. And here's the thing. These women do the same thing, the same athletes. They're just as good. They work just as hard. A lot of people would say harder because the women's, the women's teams don't have the one and dones and the NBA, but regardless, like they're doing everything the exact same. There's I can't even think of a reason that they would imagine that they could pull this off in this day and age and get away with it, man. Like it just blew me away. This is why this topic on the show. Like I just can't believe it.
The craziest disparity between the two tournaments. I actually didn't know this until I started doing some research. The UConn coach, Gino, hope I'm saying his last name right, Auriemma.
That's it. Perfect.
Beautiful. I'm proud of
We're talking a Hall of Fame coach, the greatest, the most successful women's.
Yes, for sure. When he had that dynasty a couple of years ago, they're still a dynasty, but you know what I mean. But still, the greatest disparity I'd say between the two tournaments that I didn't know until I started researching for this was the women are actually getting different COVID tests than the men's tournament is.
Oh God!
Men are getting tested daily for corona, while the women's are receiving antigen tests, which I'm not even sure if that's the full test. I think that's just a test if you had it or not. And forget the swag bag, forget the food, even though that's just as important. This right now in this day and age might be the number one priority and the number one thing that everybody should have equal in the NCAA, no matter what your sport, no matter what your gender. To me, that's the most mind-blowing thing is we're not playing the health of these athletes first.
Yes. And they swear they are. It's so frustrating. Like, and this is every sport. We've talked about this. Like, this is not something that's new. This is why they have Title IX. This is why they have all these, things in place to try and prevent this. And for it to be 2021, man, and the disparity and the, like I say, the lack of responsibility for them to do, like, I'm so glad for these women that, that whether it's TikTok, and I know we laugh at TikTok, like, oh, TikTok's funny. Like, it's an old dude getting hit by a tractor. But I mean, the truth is, like, they have an outlet, like whether it's Twitter or whether it's TikTok or whether it's whatever, like they speak out like, man, this is bullshit. Like, this is total bullshit. Like, because they know it doesn't matter what the income is. It doesn't matter how many people go to the game. That doesn't change how many jump shots like the women take during a day. It doesn't matter how many suicides. I don't know if you guys called them that when you were like basketball practice, but like, it doesn't matter like how many drills you run or whatever. Like the income should not affect the treatment of the players. And man, how is the women's side of it supposed to overcome this if every year they've got to deal with this disparity, man?
Yeah, it's deeper than just, simple weights and food. It's systematic, just like every other equality problem here. Because you got CBS saying, shout out to my Scarlet Knights, but they were saying it was Rutgers' first tournament win since 1983. Which honestly is completely wrong. Rutgers has won dozens of tournament games.
Yeah, they won a championship, right?
If you're talking about the women's, yes, they won 36. They were actually the runner-up in 2007. They did not win it.
That's a tough one.
But they've won 36 games. It's simple little things like that where we don't correct them, or if the media or these players themselves taking advantage of the social media movement doesn't correct it, it's never going to get fixed.
No, you're exactly right, man. And that's where we need to like I know like when I was growing up, no, I shouldn't say when I was growing up, when I was a younger man like yourself, that was right when like Tennessee, Pat Summitt, which RIP Pat Summitt, I've never, still one of the greatest all around coaches I ever saw in any sport ever. That was when her and then Gino Auriemma started this UConn thing, and it was all pushed upon us. Then it was all Tennessee versus UConn and all that, and it was great. And they really put it on a pedestal, and they wanted us to see it. But then the WNBA came along, which was great. I still love the WNBA. Like, it's a wonderful thing. But my whole point is, it's like any other sports, like just like, I don't care how many people watch it on TV. That doesn't take away from what the athletes on the court are doing. And I'm just telling you right now, like, I'm an Ohio State football fan. Like, everybody knows that. Ohio State football could I don't know, accidentally drop enough money, like walk into Starbucks to fund a weight room for the NCAA women's tournament. So to act like the funds aren't there, or to act like that was a reason for it, is absolutely ridiculous. And anybody that thinks that the disparity in revenue is an excuse is just part of the problem, if you ask me, man.
Yeah, to say they dropped the ball would be the understatement of the century. It's just they left and right, even the excuses they tried using, like the space limitation. Space limitation has nothing to do with food. It has nothing to do with coronavirus test.
Nothing.
It's just they clearly just didn't prepare for the women's tournament at all. Nope. They were so focused on trying to make the men's tournament happen that they just left them, gave them the cold shoulder, and just left them to strand. I heard the facilities to like even walk out and get fresh air is nowhere near the same amount of space, or just how nice it looks compared to the men's,
It's a shame. It's a shame, man, too. And like, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and lie and act like I will watch the women's tournament the same as I do the men's. But I also admit that, like, that doesn't matter. Like, I think that we could come to a point to where maybe I would,
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But like, if you keep undermining, it's all about undermining. This is how systematic works. You brought up the term systematic. This is how it works. Like, if this is how that you get this in place, like, you keep undermining it. And that's how this thing keeps going. Like, no, make everything equal. Like, have the women and men just eat in the same cafeteria, the same food, same gym. Like, none of that matters. Like, it's not even a gender thing. It's not like the men get there and like care. Like, they don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I would say that like the men's players and the women's players like respect each other more than the NCAA respects the coaches and stuff. But it's just crazy. There's so much of this money to go around. There's so much TV money involved. To act like there was like no way that you could figure this out, it just makes me sick, man. And I'm glad, thank goodness that like these, and I think this is kind of a thing that has happened in the last year. Thank goodness that these athletes will speak up, and they're not scared to speak up. They're not scared of their position. We've talked about that a lot off the ball. We're real big about like, we support these athletes that, have a voice and, and talk about things like that. And like, thank goodness that these women are like, they're not fearful of getting benched or they're losing their scholarship or whatever, as to where like, still in NCAA football, like, the kids still won't speak up because they're like, I'm just trying to get to the NFL, man. Like, I'm scared to say what's on my mind. And these women have had it. Like, they've absolutely had it,
to say the least. I mean, it helps when us men, you get male NBA players. Steph Curry actually tweeted out, and he tweeted right to the NCAA, said, y'all tripping. Yep. That was his exact words. And when you get male athletes like Steph Curry and R.I.P. Kobe, he was a big advocate for WNBA and women's basketball. When you get high-profile male athletes like that standing up, that's when we're really going to make a change.
And it's a shame that we need them, but they still have to do it. Like, if that makes any sense to anybody. Like, no, the women don't need us as men to speak up for them. But if it helps, it helps.
Exactly.
And you're right. That helps, man. These guys speaking up. So, Yeah. That was a big subject. That kind of like, this is what this show's about. That's kind of what like just really like jumped in this week. And when I went through the Twitter pages and stuff, I'm like, man, this really gets my blood flowing. So that's what the show's about. So the next one is, man, I'm going to run this by you. And I couldn't decide on what the next subject was. I'm an Ohio State fan, so this one hits a little closer to home. But essentially, we're going to talk about upset slander. And what I mean by that is like everybody loves the college basketball tournament. Everybody loves the underdog winning. Everybody, that's what we watch it for. That's why we tune in. That's why we, stick around. But the problem is when it happens, when a 15 beats a 2, when a 14 beats a 3, we take the higher seed and we destroy them. Like we just like everybody goes all in. So, it's near and dear to my heart. A couple of days ago, Ohio State as a 2 seed loses and to Oral Roberts, who are going to play, later on tonight. And but then all of a sudden, it's like they should be embarrassed. They should. Yeah. You're already laughing, man. I feel like we're going to be on the same page. They should be embarrassed. They should do this. They should do that. And I'm like, wait a minute. You two, like I think you're an East Coast guy. Like you're obviously a basketball guy. Like we talked about this earlier on the show we did. You can show up to a court and like you look at a dude and you may judge him a certain way. And if that dude catches on fire, like he may run you off the court. You know what I mean? Like, because the hoop is still like, once again, we talk about Hoosiers. The hoop is still 10 foot high. It's still in the same position. Like everybody goes to the same hoop. You know what I mean? And anybody can win on a given night. So like, it really bugs me when you got 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, they lose a game in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And instead of like, we kind of like celebrate the underdog, like, oh, that's awesome. But then we destroy, the team that loses. Like Illinois lost, they're the overall number 1 seed. They lose. They're all of a sudden they're the worst team ever. Ohio State loses. Oh, they're a joke. They never lose. So like that really bugs me, man. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel about just when a favored team loses to one of these underdogs? Like, how do you look at the team personally?
Personally, it depends on the situation. Like the time I hold the higher seat to the higher standard. So
that's fine.
I do agree with some people where I don't believe on kicking someone when they're down. Like if a higher seed does lose to Cinderella story, you got to really look, because you actually said it earlier in the show. Those teams could have flipped jerseys, and if you told me that Oral Roberts was Ohio State, I would have looked and said, yeah, you're right. So we also got to start questioning who's the people making these seedings, because are they really the ones who are doing a great job? Because you saw Loyola Chicago
Loyola Chicago
they just blew right through Illinois.
They had the lead the entire game against Illinois, who's the number 1 seed.
Exactly.
They had the lead the entire game and won by 10. I don't know what it wound up, but they won. Like it wasn't even close.
Yeah. A lot of people are saying they are looking like they should have been the number 1 overall seed for the whole tournament. So it's really, you're trusting other people to rank teams that I haven't ever seen. I'm not gonna lie. I watch March Madness. I don't know half the schools up there. My bracket's busted, of course.
Yeah. Everybody's is, man.
But yeah, I'm trusting other people to give me my rankings. If I watched a little more, like if I was like you or Couch Coach, shout out to Couch Coach, you guys are killing it in your brackets. I'm almost positive because you know not to trust everybody else's eyes, or you got your own eye test. You know what you've seen on the court. So I get why people beat up these higher seeds whenever there's an upset, but it could be the casual fan, but also everyone loves a good underdog story.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like when I saw I don't watch Ohio State super closely basketball, and only because like my heart just can't take it. Like, you get it as a basketball fan, like to watch day in and day out, man, it's grueling. And so, but Ohio State had a really, really good season. They had a stretch in their season to where they beat, 7 or 8 ranked teams in a row, like really had a good time. Then they had it down. They just beat Michigan, who was a number 1 seed last week, dude, 7 or 8 days ago now. They just beat Michigan. So that was cool. So when they lose, and then like I see, obviously, I have a lot of Ohio State followers and stuff on Twitter and things like that. When I see them go in on it, I'm like, I don't know, like, man, they lost a game. I don't know if like we should be embarrassed. I don't know if we should start firing coaches or whatever. Because to me, I've always said that's disrespectful. Like you said, Loyola Chicago, that's disrespectful to them. It's like, wait a minute, you don't accidentally win your first 2 games in the NCAA tournament. You know what I mean? So like I can't, like, if that, say, like, for instance, like my son is like, well, he's actually older than what would play on the team, but like he's old enough he can play on that team. Like I'm that old. So like if somebody was telling me like, oh, like your son doesn't deserve that victory, like I would be super offended. I'm like, no. These kids, they work hard. You know what I mean? They have things in place. They know they've been playing basketball against great players for years and years and years, especially like Loyola Chicago. Like I'm assuming they're from Chicago. That's a competitive city. You know what I mean? So I get really offended by like what you're doing is you're taking it away from the higher seed. Like everybody wants the higher seed to win, and then when they do, they just want to clown, the lower seed. It really, I don't know, man. It just doesn't sit well with me. And that's probably, maybe I'm an older guy. But come on, man, get some credit to the team that wins, right?
Yeah, but also what messes with people is it's just besides the expectations. Oh, I just lost it. What I was gonna say. It's almost like the Knicks and the Nets. I'll bring some NBA.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
People are saying that if the Knicks make the playoffs and the Nets make the finals but don't win it, the Knicks had the better season.
Yeah, like, that's a perfect example, man. That's
like, is it really a better season? I understand where they're coming from, but if you bring out a third party, like I know you're not a Knicks or a Nets fan, who really had the better season, Jeff? You get me?
I gotcha. That's exactly right. And that's what I say. Like just watch the games and watch it. But then it goes the other way too. Then they start going to name recognition. They're like, North Carolina, loses. Oh, they're the worst ever. We're like, we don't know. Have we evaluated the team? Have we seen what every player is going to do? Like, I think you're right. Always take a second look at the team that won and figure, because like there's some really, really good players on these teams. Okay, for instance, Steph Curry is going to go down as all-time great player. When he comes in and makes that run with Davidson, like, I mean, it's been, 10, 12 years ago now. I mean, it's been a while.
Almost 13, I think.
Yeah. So like everybody had to take a look at like, man, what's this Steph kid doing? Like, and it proved out that like, oh yeah, they had one of the greatest NBA players of all time on their team, rather than be like every team he beat along the way, like, was terrible. And then they like, okay, like the Ohio State team, for example, like, yes, Ohio State is one of the biggest athletic program. For instance, last week's Ohio State Michigan game, or the Ohio State Illinois game, I'm sorry, the Big Ten championship, the most watched college game of the year. So like they push, they you know what I mean? Like they get eyeballs. That doesn't mean the players, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, like, okay, so Washington gets an open jumper at the top of the key. It misses. He's not the worst player ever. You know what I mean? He just missed. It's a basketball game. Like, we've all played basketball games, especially basketball. I think that's the one sport that, like, because of the 3-point line, because of so many things going on, I think we're too hard on these teams that, like, when they lose, I think it should be a little more credit to the team that wins. But I get it. Like you say, like, I get it. There's some fair criticism to go around for sure.
And just to bounce off your Steph Curry point, it's you got a lot of mid-major colleges that, like you just said, they have ballers that you'll never heard of. Like Dwayne Wade went to Marquette.
Yep.
Jimmy Butler. Marquette's been in the tournament. Jimmy Butler went to Marquette. I don't think they've been in a tournament in years.
Right.
It's just, and when you're in these mid-major schools, you actually want to grind harder because, like you just said, Michigan, Ohio State had the most eyes for the year.
Yeah.
The last time a Dayton game before that whole tournament with Steph Curry even got a couple eyes.
Exactly.
It's just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean the baller isn't there on the court.
Yes. And we fall, we've talked about it a lot. We fall, into the trap of like, well, if the big networks don't tell us that this is a big game, this is the college football situation we get into. Like, we judge Florida State different than we do Boise State. Like, there's no reason for that. It's not because of the players, it's because of the name. And that's the same thing we do in the NCAA basketball tournament. But like, you and I both know as like basketball fans, like that age is over, man.
No.
Like there's a ton of good players. There's a ton of great players that aren't even in college, anymore. The playing field is leveled. Instead of sometimes, I guess my overall thing is like, instead of sometimes just enjoying what we're seeing, it's all about like pouncing on Duke for not making the tournament, pouncing on Ohio State for losing, pouncing on Illinois for losing, instead of just being like, wow, like how lucky are we to have, all these great players and that everything is the even playing field that we get. To me, that's just how I see it.
I think you just explained the word fanatic, Jeff. That's just the simplest way I can explain it. It's you live in the moment, and even if if you're a Duke fan and Duke loses, you got to curse your team out. There's nothing else. I'm not
right.
The other team. We're Duke. That's it. We should beat whoever walks through that door. It's all recency bias. That's all sports is, but that's what makes sports so great.
That's fair.
Talk about it now, and by tomorrow we're gonna step back, look at this game, and be like, you know what? Oral Roberts, pretty solid team. They might have a couple NBA players.
Good point.
About popping up in 2 or so years.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point, man. Maybe it's like some of my pushback is like if I just wait for it, like if I just wait for the smoke to settle a little bit, like that's true, man. Like it is about Fanatics. Speaking of Fanatics, a great sponsor of the network, fanatics.com. Go there, use the code, off the ball, and get your Fanatics gear. So. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So, James, I just want to thank you. This was the premiere episode of my knee-jerk analysis. It went great. I want to thank you for coming on. I want everybody to go to offtheballnetwork.com and check it out and check out everything we're doing right now. If you guys see the promo code for Manscaped there at the bottom, take advantage of that. Great product, great sponsor we have now. James Barcia, what do you got going on in the next couple of weeks, man? Tell us about it.
Next couple of weeks, I'm in the lab right now. I'm cooking.
That's awesome.
Me and my man Jerg, follow him on Twitter at JergK40. We got something very exciting coming up for you guys. Can't stop talking about it. Whenever you see me, it's all I'm thinking about. And I got my MLB power rankings. I just dropped them. Everybody, make sure you go ahead, check them out. I'm going to be updating them every week once the season gets started.
Hey, and James, as the NFL power rankings guy of Off the Ball Network, I just want to saying, man, be ready because people will come at you strong. It is amazing the opinions. Like, it's amazing the opinion somebody will have between like the 5th ranked team and the 6th ranked team. Like you'll have a 2-hour discussion with somebody and they'll be like, wait a minute. You're just trying to get San Diego to 10 instead of 11. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, it's pretty wild, man. But I'm glad you do that. I appreciate your rankings. It's real cool. I can't wait to see what you and Jerg are doing. I know things are going to go great. And we're looking forward to it, man. So that's it, everybody. This was I'm Jeff. This is Jeff Needs Sports. Go check me out. You guys know the deal. Like, follow, review, all the good things. Follow James at Bars Talks. Follow Jerg. Follow everybody on Off the Ball Network. You won't be disappointed. It's going to be awesome. So we will talk to you guys next week. This has been Knee Jerk Analysis, and be kind, everybody, and don't be racist.